It's Friday, December 13th, and this is another edition of the Zogby Report, real and unscripted. And it really is real and unscripted. I'm here with my son, my managing partner, Jeremy Zogby. How you doing?
Hey, I'm looking forward to another unscripted conversation.
Well, I've come up with this, and, we're going to dip our toes into some real controversy today. There's so much going on. Could have chosen any one of a number of items, but I want to talk about Luigi Mangione, the alleged shooter of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Very strange situation, very sad situation, and we'll remind ourselves and remind viewers that he's innocent until proven guilty on one hand. On the other hand, a grand jury, as we speak, is considering facts towards an indictment of him because as evidence continues in and continues to pile in, it's very compelling evidence, and at least, I guess, according to experts, worthy of an indictment. At least he'll get his chance for a trial. But with that said, a man, a father, a CEO was gunned down outside the Hilton Hotel in Manhattan, is now dead. And that is extremely sad. At the same time, it has not only sparked a debate, it has sparked public reaction like one that we've probably never seen before. Actual United Healthcare and other health insureds, if not actually cheering Luigi Mangione on, at least expressing no sympathy for Brian Thompson. And this is not a few. At last count, I saw 76,000 likes for those initial reactions, those kinds of reactions, but it continues. And a colleague of mine just this morning in a Zoom said that she was praying with Catholic nuns this morning who work with the poor. And they were saying, without mincing words at all, that what this young man has done, though we condemn the violence, but what this young man has done has sparked a conversation that is long overdue. And I would end this phase of my comments by saying that the chairman of the board of United Healthcare issued a statement just this morning, or at least we saw it just this morning, in which he condemned the killing, praised CEO Thompson, but said, look, we hear the message and we're going to engage in some fixes for what people are demanding. And wow, is this what it takes? Is this good coming from evil? Is this the way we want to have things done? I've used the phrase many times because I learned it and I went to Catholic school. St. Teresa of Avila, God writes straight with crooked lines. But this was a murder. And now we have a debate, and perhaps we'll have reform. I'm sorry to spring that on you like that, but I'm really in a quandary about all of this. Help me out. What do you think?
Well, I think you helped me out because I was puzzled myself. I think the first thing I want to ask is, I'm going to assume, because I haven't seen any polls, right? And quite frankly, I wouldn't really want to poll, but I'm curious to know support, sympathy. Look, I'm sure it's low, but that low number still would probably be not good. But without seeing any data, and because you always have to be skeptical of social media likes and who are these people and all of that.
Mhm.
But let's just assume that there's a fan club, and it's disturbing. But my first reaction is where's the for Generation Z and millennials, where's our Martin Luther King? Where's our Gandhi? Where's our where's our civil rights leader on nonviolent protesting, boycotting? Those were the tools that really could change something. This just puts us closer to a Mad Max scenario where the media obsession and coverage of the story sends a signal that this guy's like an anti-hero.
Mhm.
And what do I mean by that? A great analogy would be the movie Taxi Driver. I've watched the movie several times because I always just felt that there was a lot of cultural critique, but Travis Bickle, who's a guy who's on the brink of insanity and a romance gone bad, throws him over the edge, who has all this self-righteousness as he's driving around the city commenting on pimps and prostitutes, saying that someday a storm is going to wash the scum away. Here's a guy who goes on a murderous rampage. And at the end of the movie, there's a scene which is actually just Travis Bickle imagining, that he's a hero. It's not real. But what happens is here the guy he's arrested, but in the last clip of the movie, he gets back into the car and he's the taxi driver again. And there's this romantic music in the background, and he picks up Sybil Shepherd, the woman he fell in love with, and she's just, all about him. And that was a commentary in the late 70s about, whoever wrote and made that movie, that we were heading towards this culture that praised the anti-hero. Somebody who had the status of a hero who should not have had any status of a hero. And it seems like the moral decay, and there's a lot of these, there's a lot of factors that go into that moral decay, has brought us to that realization. And I'm left wondering, where's our Gandhi and where's our Martin Luther King, who are advocating for, if you have a problem with vulture capitalism, like many of us do, the way to bring down vulture capitalism is through the way Gandhi brought down the British Empire and the way MLK brought down the segregation in Alabama.
Those are all really fascinating points. For the record, this young man stood to inherit $100 million from his grandmother. There was a botched operation that has left him permanently in pain and may have caused some kind of brain damage that has put him off center. And I think very important to note that he was not a client of United Healthcare at all. So this was a young man apparently who'd been radicalized in college and then further radicalized by either brain damage or something. But his friends say that he went off the rails. But that's the one point. Even his fellow prisoners, where he's incarcerated in Pennsylvania somewhere, are calling him a hero and advocating for better conditions while he's in a holding cell. But I think the point that you make, where is the Gandhi? That takes years, to develop. Although we're accustomed these days to getting things deliberated more quickly and someone emerging as a star, either on social media or in rallies. That interestingly didn't happen with Gaza. That was kind of an amorphous mass. There was no one vocal leader that stood out during that. I believe also earlier Black Lives Matter. I don't recall that there was any single force of nature, one person that emerged. Here's an instance where it literally takes the firing of one gun and the emergence of the anti-hero. And frankly, I think your analogy to Taxi Driver is appropriate. Saw that movie in the 70s, and I remember the horrible funk, that it put me in. This is putting me in a funk as well. But the healthcare system, the health insurance system is so broken. Look, people do get healed. It works for many, but for too many people, it doesn't work. And for too many people who, visit a hospital, have surgery, have inadequate or no health insurance, it doesn't work at all. And it's clearly broken.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, and I'll look at it from the perspective of historical forces, that there, a lot of the things at play are, and I've already brought up the vulture capitalist system. And by the way, I mean, I don't have a problem with capitalism, but what has become of the brand of capitalism is vulture capitalism, which is a system in which too large, too big, too overly privileged companies and not enough competition and not enough homegrown businesses become the champions of the day, and they set the terms. They give you the service and they set the terms. And it's not supposed to be that way. But then you have the backdrop of this doesn't play in the case of Mangione because he was set to inherit millions and millions of dollars, but that backdrop of the economic anxiety and the growing gap between the rich and the poor, coupled with a moral decay in which there are generations who are more and more kids who spend too much time on screens and spend too much time immersed in fantasy worlds of video games, violent video games. And then one last thing, the overemphasis of ideology. And ideology with intensity, not even just your liberal, moderate, and conservative, but all-encompassing ideologies that have taken the place of basic spirituality and civics. Absolutely. And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
I do too, and I think that's a not only worthy point, but I think that's a good closing point here. The fact that morality is based solely now on whether I agree or disagree with the perpetrator. And obviously that's troublesome, and that's a broken system in and of itself. All right. Honestly, this is a very tough conversation. Those of you out there who do follow us or maybe visiting us for the first time, help us out with this one. And Jared, how do they do that? Of course, we're on social media, but how do people respond to us?
Well, there's comment sections in all of the channels, the various channels that this podcast goes live on, and that's Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud. And then if you go to our website and you go to the podcast button, there is the ability to leave a comment there. And so, yeah, I mean, we would like to hear that, this is data in of itself, the response to this conversation, and it would be intriguing to hear that qualitative data.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm not going to say Merry Christmas yet because I think we may very well be back next week. Take care. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Have a great weekend.